I love seeing passions that kids can kind of come to life outside of even just their business, but how they're able to apply that. And then like, I think you kind of mentioned a moment ago, but just I don't know if pride's the right word, but the ownership and when they've done it themselves and it's something that they've really, the vision they've come to life, they've seen it grow. It's just so cool because they have such a passion really for what they do and they've experienced it and they've grown it from the start up. And I just love that. I think that's just such a fulfilling, again, whether they choose to it be a one and done experience for them or to do something with it in their future, it's just a really cool thing to get to experience.
You're listening to the Big Ideas Podcast with Ashley Ilg. Tune in for honest conversations as we pursue bold dreams, redefine what is possible, and empower the next generation to live big. You'll hear stories that prove over and over again that just because something wasn't a part of our plan doesn't mean it won't be used for our good. Whether you're already an entrepreneur, you dream of becoming one, or you're raising the next generation of entrepreneurs, this podcast is for you. There's no time to waste on your big ideas. So let's get started. Here's your host, Ashley Ilg.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Big Ideas Podcast. I am so excited to wrap up this season with not just me. So you get to hear from one of my dear friends, Chelsea Thompson. She is another local entrepreneur, another homeschooling mom who just has lots of similar passions to mine. She's also taught entrepreneurship on and off since 2021 to other children and young entrepreneurs in the area. She is a travel agent and just all around just creative and ambitious and just full of heart with everything that she does. And so I'm so excited to have y'all listen to her today. So welcome to the show, Chelsea.
Thanks, Ashley. I'm so excited to be here.
Yes, I'm so excited too. Because, everybody at this point, if you've been following along, it's no surprise that I love talking all things entrepreneurship, teaching the next generation entrepreneurship, why it's important. And, at this point, you're like, okay, so tell us something we don't know. So I'd love for Chelsea, for you to just jump in. I love hearing, and I personally don't know your story of like how you landed in the world of entrepreneurship, what drew you in, what kind of path what your path looked like. So I'd love for you to just kind of start there and just kind of tell us like why entrepreneurship for you? Like, what did that look like? Where did you start with that?
Absolutely. So yeah, I think it's one of those things for me. I think some of us were like born with that hat, this God-given, like, hey, I'm going to be an entrepreneur, and others of us learn it as we go, which there's, no right or wrong. But for me, I think, I think God just put that passion in me from the start, from a very young age. So I grew up on land and I remember being upset. I mean, I couldn't have been but maybe 3 or 4 because I so badly wanted to have a lemonade stand and we lived on land. So there was nowhere to have a lemonade stand. And I remember coming to my parents going like, we've got to find a place that I can build a lemonade stand. And from there, it just continued to grow and grow. So really the first time I remember making or turning a profit, must have been maybe 5 or 6. And I probably only remember this because my parents love to retell this story, but it was my gymnastics class at the time. And I had designed a paper mailbox that was supposed to be for like whatever doll or Barbie I was playing with at the time. And I had sold these to my classmates for like 50 cents or something like that and sold out. And I was so excited until my poor mom got the phone call from the parents that are like, I am no artist. That is one of the gifts that God did not give me. So these parents calling my mom going, I think our child paid you real money for this thing that's supposed to be a mailbox. And honestly, that experience, I think really is what put this desire in my heart to learn about business and to learn about what makes a happy customer and all the things. And really, honestly, I attribute so much to how my parents responded to me in that situation to kind of what sparked this love for the next generation and teaching the next generation personally for me, because they were so encouraging in that particular instance. And although I gave the money back, they just really encouraged me to keep going after my heart and trying to find a quality product. And maybe next time to make sure parents are okay before money's passed the hands and all those sorts of things. But I really think that sparked it for me. So then even going forward from there, so as young as 10, I started my first business with a friend of mine. We did a mommy's helper, kind of dual partnership thing and babysat and did all the things, gift wrapping. And we were always just trying to kind of figure out what's the next thing we can do. And so flash forward to college, I went to University of Georgia and knew I wanted to get a degree in business because honestly, for me, outside of practicing it and just experiencing it and trying it myself, that was really my first exposure to actual business principles was in college. So it's the first time I got to learn about things like risk management and customer service and finance and, all these principles that you and I know are so important. And so within that, University of Georgia launched the year I was there, a club that was called UGA's Next Top Entrepreneur. It was when Shark Tank was really popular. And so the idea was you formed a team and you would go and pitch an idea in front of real, venture capitalists trying to get capital to launch your business. And so I did that with some others that I was in school with, and I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea, the passion. I thought it was super fun. I loved how I saw other leaders that were investing in, youth and college and just trying to kind of spur this love of entrepreneurship and serving a customer from there. So that was really exciting to me. So then in college, I launched a business where I taught, I had a team of people that taught mobile gymnastics in daycare centers, kind of like a mobile gymnastics business, which was so fun. I learned so much. It was really fun. I mean, I knew nothing, and I was a young kid myself, but I certainly got like fire hose of information of just learning how to lead a team and keep customers happy and all the things that happen when people are calling in sick and just, fire hose for doing. So that was really fun. So it's always been a passion of mine. I actually ended up in a corporate role out once I finished college and loved that. And my dream job, served that for 10 years. But ironically, God put me in a position where I was serving other business leaders corporately, but small business owners, and getting to support them and hear their hearts. And I think that's really where I fell in love with the idea of the impact they were getting to make for their community and their teams and their vendors and just their heart of entrepreneurs. So I know that was kind of a lengthy answer.
No,
that's my
so
journey
good.
of kind of what's gotten me to here. So in 2019, I left my corporate job. I felt like God was calling me to stay at home with my babies. And through that, knew I needed to do something or I would drive my poor family crazy, because those of us who are entrepreneurs, as you know, we always have our
so many ideas.
Right? I'm like, oh, it's great.
Yeah.
So from that, I launched a content creation business. I've kind of been playing around right when Instagram was becoming kind of the next thing. And so that was amazing because I was able to schedule and let it be what I wanted it to be as far as family time and hours, as I kind of pulled that back and learned how to do that. And like I said, just about a year ago, I became a travel advisor as well. So there's always something going on, always something always something fun. But that's kind of my heart. It's where a long, lengthy answer maybe, but where my heart from entrepreneurship came from.
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting to me because I don't know many entrepreneurs that from a young age, I mean, my husband is like you, like he always knew he wanted to own a business, even though his parents tried to direct him otherwise. They were entrepreneurs, but anyway, in their generation, it just felt like a more secure thing. Like, let's raise our kids to go the corporate route. So he was raised by business owners to go the corporate route. And, that's a whole nother topic, but
that's interesting.
But I love how you knew from an early age, like that's what you wanted to, but then also that your parents like cheered that on and helped you get over those early hurdles. And just, I mean, I love that. I love that story. I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs that I talk to are like, I just one day everything flipped and here I am, and learning as we go, which is similar to more of my story. So I love hearing that because I'm the founder of Kids Business Day, as you know. I mean, that's I think where we originally met. And just raising my own children now, like I have a heart for cheering on that young entrepreneur, but I was not that one. So I love knowing that we're all out there,
Yeah, and it's fun. All different stories and all different backgrounds, right?
Yes.
Love it.
So then as you said you have your 3 children, and as you were growing your online content creation business and raising your babies, and again, it just kind of comes naturally. You're like, love it or not, like this is the environment you're raised in, and we all do things creatively around here. So
Sure.
what did that that look like for you with your children when they were young? Like, did they start having those business ideas? What did you do to cheer them on as a mom, in those early days?
Yeah, absolutely. So my oldest is very much like I am. He's always kind of thinking of something and has come up with such creative ideas, tried so many things, some great successes and some not so much successes. The other two are still a lot younger, but I haven't seen it quite as much, honestly, with them. My second thinks she really wants to be a vet, and she's very passionate about animals. But all that to say, I mean, whether my own kids and even in the classes that I've had the opportunity to teach, I just have such a passion for teaching it, because I believe whether or not they choose to become entrepreneurs or own their own business or work for somebody else, skill sets that they're learning through entrepreneurship are skill sets that will take them so far in life. And I think there's very few other things, whether it be sports or other classes, or that teach those sorts of kind of soft skills and even hard skills, but how to talk to others. And I've been surprised, even in just being around high schoolers, how many high schoolers don't know how to give like a firm handshake, or look people in the eye, and just kind of those basic customer service principles, and even the money management piece. Like, there's adults that I've talked about what I teach and what I do, and they're like, man, I would have loved to learn that, or I'm still learning that. And I felt that very much the same way, even with my college experience. I was like, man, this is great that I'm learning this now, but like, this would have been so cool if I could have learned this at 10 or 5, or how earlier in life. So
yeah, and I totally agree with that. And it's interesting, my daughter wants to pursue veterinary school and to be a vet.
I love it.
And then the others are more entrepreneurial. She is too, but at the same time, it's the longest standing, what do you want to do, as an adult choice that she's stuck with. And I'm like, I think this might actually be it.
That's awesome.
She literally loves animals.
It's amazing.
I know. And I love that your daughter is too.
That's so fun.
I know.
Hey, maybe we can practice together one day. Maybe they'll be entrepreneurs.
I know. I'm like, well, you still have to run your practice. So yeah, you can love animals and then be terrible with your books, and you're not going to succeed. So yeah. Hey friend, quick pause before we keep going. As you know, this season of the Big Ideas podcast is all about building ideas, confidence, leadership, and real world skills our kids can actually use. And if you've been listening thinking, wow, I wish I had something like this when I was growing up, I did too, which is why I created the Future CEO Playbook. It's a hands-on guide designed to help kids think like problem solvers, build and test ideas, understand money, communicate clearly, and take initiative with faith, purpose, and creativity at the center. You can order the spiral-bound workbook at ashleyilg.com or the paperback version on Amazon. Both are designed to be worked through interactively, so kids can write, plan, build, and reflect as they go. If this season has you inspired, the playbook helps you put it into action. All right, let's get back to the show. Yeah, I know, like you mentioned some of those soft skills with, just the communication skills and even the confidence, what are some of the other things you feel like, especially with like the students that you've taught over the years too? Are they typically like middle or like elementary age? Or are they high school?
Yeah, so I've taught all the way from 2nd grade through 9th grade. It's kind of the ages that I've played around with a little bit. This next year, we're going to be offering classes for 5th and 6th and 7th and 8th, which I'm really excited, because I really think that's kind of a sweet spot of, obviously with business, you've got to really understand math and the basic principles.
Yeah.
But so that, some of the younger ages, you can certainly still be involved, but it gets a little trickier on that piece. But yeah, so many skill sets from, what I've seen is several of my students have taken what they've earned through their businesses and launched kind of their own way of giving back. Not necessarily a full nonprofit, but I've had students that have gone on mission trips with what they've earned. I've had students that have supported other families, whether that be just in their community that needed some extra help, or one student made a lending library with some of the money that he earned. And just, I love seeing passions that kids can kind of come to life outside of even just their business, but how they're able to apply that. And then, like, I think you kind of mentioned a moment ago, but just I don't know if pride's the right word, but the ownership, and when they've done it themselves, and it's something that they've really, the vision, they've come to life, they've seen it grow. It's just so cool, because they have such a, again, I don't know that pride's really the right word, because there's a lot of humility in play there too. But just a passion really for what they do, and they've experienced it and they've grown it from the start up. And I just love that. I think that's just such a fulfilling, again, whether they choose to it be a one and done experience for them or to do something with it in their future, it's just a really cool thing to get to experience.
Yeah, 100%. And I know with our experience with Kids Business Day for the last, eight or so years, coming up on our 9th year, I mean, I think that's one of the coolest, that's the most feedback I get from parents and from the young entrepreneurs there, is that they take something that they thought was a great idea, well, I think it's a great idea. And then they show up to this event and they're like, oh my gosh, other people think it's a great idea, so much so that they're willing to pay me for it. And not just one, but, multiple people. And so, just seeing that light bulb and that, just that enthusiasm come to life, where they're like, oh my gosh, this was a great idea and it's working,
Yeah.
But I love talking about when it doesn't work, and so
100%.
I will never be, and I've said this multiple times on this podcast, but I will never be the friend that's like, oh, it's all roses, like it's the best plan and everybody should do it because it's the easiest one, like, no, never.
100%.
So let's talk about, some challenges you've personally experienced with, your businesses and different opportunities you've done. And then maybe you can give some insight on some of the challenges you've helped your children or your students overcome too, that our listeners would be like, okay, I'm normal for experiencing this.
Oh my goodness.
How do I help overcome this,
Absolutely. I mean, really, if we're not failing, we're not growing, we're not learning though, right? So much of it is how we let it or don't allow failure to play into our enthusiasm for what we do. And that's what I tell my students is I'm like, look, you're gonna mess up in some way. Your business idea may be a complete failure. And sometimes, honestly, I like, especially for kids, I mean, the risk is so low. That's the beauty for kids about entrepreneurship and your kids' business day is it's an amazing, such a fun one-day event. And if it's a total failure at the end, they had a blast. They got to see friends. They probably spent a ton of money supporting their friends.
Right.
I know my kids look forward to your event every year. And we have definitely had several years where we came back like definitely in the red. And it's been the best learning opportunities. I honestly almost prefer those for my kids than turning a big profit, because I feel like the amount they learn and they take away is so good. So, I mean, my oldest, like I mentioned, he's very, very creative, extremely. He's definitely has my entrepreneurial brain. The soft skills for him are a little more challenging. And one of the great things about Kids Business Day is it's been a great opportunity for him to work on some of those skill sets. But there's been several years that he's come up with an idea. He learned pretty quickly that originally he's like, I want to make something that has a lot of investment for me in it because I want to do something really creative. And he quickly learned that at the Kids Business Fair events, it's better to have things that cost less, that don't have as much upfront costs, just because that's the audience, your customers tends to be younger kids also shopping. And those takeaways have just been so valuable for him and just learning to grow and we've gotten to talk through that and takeaways. And personally, oh my goodness, I have had so many failures of all the things I do. I think it's just what you do with it. I've had businesses that I've thought about launching that have never even made it there. I remember like high school was probably my first one. A friend and I had launched or just came out with this amazing idea to this summer camp for kids. We had a full roster already of kids that were wanting to sign up. We were really excited about it. We hired additional counselors to kind of help run it. And then I found out about this thing called insurance. And I quickly realized that this business idea was not going to be profitable because I needed to have a certain amount of insurance. And that's just a really basic example. But I think, again, like whether it's kids, my personal kids, my students, or even myself, it's just how do we take those failures? How do we learn from them and grow from them, research so that next time we show up even better for whoever we're trying to serve?
Yeah, definitely. I would definitely agree with that. I mean, I personally, and I can see my kids over the years where, hey, it's a great idea, and you almost can like foreshadow, like, this is not going to work, but I'm not going to be the one to squelch that, like from the get-go. So you like let them, like you said, it's almost like when you have like, I've got, a couple teenagers now, and it's kind of like, I would rather you experience some of these hard life lessons now while you're under my roof, or like you, like in business, like these financial setbacks, or, the feeling of failure or whatever that failure, that challenge looks like now, because it's so low risk. There's such a soft landing at this age, but the lessons learned are life skills. And there's no other way to duplicate it other than like literally going through the failure and feeling that loss and feeling like, I just lost $50. I just lost $300. I just lost a week of my time or a month of my time. It's like, yeah, that's really hard.
Right.
But in the grand scheme, like it could have been so much worse as an adult, like,
oh, absolutely.
How much better to learn that lesson now. I love that you brought that up because yes, I mean, the value of learning it now is so much better. And,
absolutely.
And they're
we
going
don't have a mortgage
to
pay, right? You're not feeding a family. Like
it's
nothing. There's nothing to lose really at the end of the day. Like you said.
Yes. A little disappointment. Okay, let's feel that. Let's talk through that. Let's figure out what we can do better next time. And it's going to be okay. Yeah.
Absolutely. And you just never know. Even some of my students' ideas, I mean, to be totally honest, there's been a couple ideas that I tried really hard to talk them out of, because to your point, some of that you can kind of see coming. And there's been some ideas I'm like, guys, this is a lot of upfront cost, or you're going to need a lot of different supplies. I don't think this, may not work. So just kind of, you're trying to, I never want to direct, but you're trying to kind of lead. And honestly, there's been a few that have totally surprised me. Like one of my students has blown it out of the waters. He's created his own cotton candy business. And I remember when he first had this idea, I was like, I don't know, that's a lot of supplies. That's sticky. I don't know. And I mean, he is taking it all over. He's just done amazing.
It's going to be messy, guys.
Like, you sure you have a passion for cotton candy? And he does. He is incredible. So it's just fun too, to see, you just never know.
Yeah. Yeah. My second oldest, our very first kids business day, he wanted to teach people how to do gymnastics moves because he had just started gymnastics at that point, and he just thought he was like the all-star. And, I could do a full split. I can do a handstand. I can do a cartwheel. So he brought his little tumbling mat to the park. We weren't even at, like our shop at that point. And he was charging $1 to teach people how to do gymnastics moves. And I was like, you know what? You're enthusiastic about it. You've got a talent for it. Let's just see who shows up to learn how to do a somersault with you. Like,
I love that. I love it so much.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like your gymnastics, your mobile gymnastics. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, I would have hired him.
Yeah.
There you go.
He would have been hired.
That's
he was hireable.
Yeah. There you go.
That's amazing. So you've mentioned too, I don't know if it was in conversations, I feel like, I mean, you and I both have a strong faith, and like that is definitely the foundation for, the passion. And I'm not trying to put words in your mouth, so, feel free to.
No, absolutely. Yeah.
But I know, like, for me, and I think for you too, like just knowing like our talents and our gifts are from the Lord, and stewarding them well and using them, not wasting them, teaching others to do the same. Like that's a really big part of it. And so, how would you say your faith kind of plays into what you do and how you like to share that?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, for me, it's fully, in fact, I've learned to never say never or always, because I really, really want to be, I just pray, my prayer every day is that listening to the Spirit and I'm following where he leads. And so for me, I mean, that's everything in life, but especially when it comes to business. I never thought I would leave my corporate role, to be honest with you. And, but very much felt that calling, and he has blessed that decision so much in what I'm doing now. And even I would have never thought I would be a travel advisor or doing Instagram for a living. But I really do feel like it's his calling. And what's been so cool is he's blessed not only the businesses that have come from that, but he has allowed me the opportunity to impact so many other people in different ways through sharing my story. I mean, and through teaching these classes to these younger kids. I mean, for me, again, that's an act of just how can I continue? And I know you feel the same way, because we've had this conversation. I've heard you say this, but yeah, just how can we give up our time and so time and talent to others, and however we can to give back. So, and I very much feel like if it's I never want to do anything. I spend lots and lots of time praying over anything, or I try to before I say yes, because I'm like, if it's not coming from there, it's not going to be successful. And then I am able to go into whatever it is I'm doing without a fear, because I'm like, even if it's not financially successful, I believe there's some sort of purpose to this. I may never see it, or I may, but even if it's complete failure and we switch gears, like as long as I'm following that lead, I believe that God's going to use it somehow. So
Mm.
absolutely. And I really encourage, I'm blessed to teach at a private Christian kind of homeschool academy. So we talk about faith a lot and talk about spending time over praying for our businesses, and how important that is to make sure that you're following what you feel called to do, because I really do believe what you love comes from God. And so I encourage everybody, all my students, and my own personal kids, I'm like, whatever you do, you need to love it. You got to have a why that you can come back to on those hard days, because there's going to be hard days, to your point earlier. No matter what you do, you can have the best job in the world, whether that's working for yourself or somebody else, and there's going to be those days that you're like, I don't want to do this anymore. But coming back to that purpose and that why behind it all is just so critical. And for me, so much of that does go right on with just a bigger calling to purpose in life.
Yeah. Well, and I think too, as an online content creator, you're primarily on Instagram for that. Is that right?
Primarily. I'm on all the platforms, but Instagram's my biggest.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you probably have created so many connections and just, I love what you share. And I feel like there's such a variety with what you, you share about, what you give access and like fun coupons and like fun insights to. And I'm like, oh my gosh, I would never think to go there or to do that or to buy that. And I think it's so interesting. And I think it's important too, as Christians and as entrepreneurs or as Christian entrepreneurs, maybe, I think sometimes it could be tempting or maybe common to think like, well, this is what a Christian business looks like. And, I think there's almost like, I think we're getting over it, but I do think that there has been a stigma with, online influencers, content creators of like, well, that's not a platform where God can really be used or shown or glorified, or I'm probably speaking a little bit too strongly because I don't know that there's like, and maybe, I'll just let you kind of share to that point of, have you had to overcome any outside feedback or even just like your own, like, is this, whatever? I don't know what I'm trying to ask.
No, I totally feel like, I absolutely agree. There definitely is. And I think it's probably still out there. And I think because I do choose to put myself out there, that's part of what I do. A lot of it, and kind of always through the lens of, I probably overthink things too much on, is this a true reflection of how I would want to show up, or I'd want others to see me and see hopefully Jesus through me as well too. And I definitely don't get it right all the time. In fact, back to the failure piece, there's plenty of times I go back and I'm like, oh, I don't know that I showed up the way I had hoped I would in that. But for me, especially with what I do, it's changed brands that I say yes to and brands that I say no to. There's actually been, again, I don't know if you necessarily consider it failures, but learning experiences for sure. There's been many, many, many times I've actually had to totally change even how I write a contract or negotiate with brands, because I learned the hard way that there's been many times that I do a lot of stuff in the travel realm. So experiences and resorts and all that. I love that. It kind of goes hand in hand with why I decided to become a travel agent, just because I'm just really passionate about family adventures in general. But anyway, all that to say, there's been many times that unfortunately I've shown up for something, or even I've agreed to work with a brand and then I've experienced the product, or I've traveled there or the event, and I'm like, oh man, I have to be honest if I'm going to post about that or if I'm going to share my experience. I feel very, very strongly. And part of that is probably my faith, and then just morally as well too. So I've even had to change terms of my contract. I'm like, this is what I think I'm agreeing to, but if there's something that like doesn't seem off, I've had to go back several times, more than I wish, to brands and say, I always kind of give them an out, but I'm like, if you still want me to promote, I'm going to have to promote honestly. And it was a negative experience and not something that I would want any of my friends to do. And that's how I think of it. I'm like, if I wouldn't want my best friend to go do it, if I wouldn't want my kids to tell their kid, their friends to go do it, then I'm not going to talk about it. And so I don't know if that really answers your question, but I think in my world of doing that, that's the thing that most often just comes into play. But there definitely is, I think overall, that I don't know if even stigma is the right word, but we're all just trying to do the best we can, and we don't get it right all the time. Thankfully, there's a lot of grace, and that comes from it. But it does, you do have to think things through and how they're representing not only myself, but my family and my faith as well. people.
Yeah. And I respect you so much that, when it could be a hard decision to make, I don't know if it's, obviously there's a financial piece to it. And so
Absolutely.
having that discernment and that wisdom to know, like, this isn't right. This isn't, like you said, this isn't to my core what I feel good about sharing about, that, you have the confidence to be like, God still got me, like, obviously,
Yeah.
but like
Yeah.
this one contract isn't going to make or break, anything. And I think that is such a powerful testimony and such a powerful example to other people like yourself, other content creators and influencers, because I don't know that everybody holds themselves to that sort of standard. But even for your kids to be watching, and obviously they can, my older two, they're not on Instagram, but they'll, every once in a while see something that I'll post and they're like,
Yeah.
oh my gosh, mom, it's so cringe or whatever. And I'm like,
Right.
well, there's nothing wrong with it. It's just like, I'm just a mom. Like, it's just, I'm not your,
Right.
whatever.
Yeah.
But it does make me think like, oh my gosh, they're watching what I'm doing. Like, it really does remind you that whether it's in real life or online, like, your example is so important. Our example is so important. And yeah, I think it's so cool the way that as businesses evolve and more is done, obviously online and through social media, and even like micro influencers, it's like God is in all of it. Creativity comes from the creator. So if it's a new
100%.
idea, like, I promise you he's in it, as long as we're inviting him into it. Like, what the business is not as important as like who it's fueled by, and
Yeah.
our heart
No, you're
behind it all.
exactly
Yeah.
right.
Yeah.
Yes. And just thankfully there's a lot of grace in it, but I think so much of it is being authentic. And when you mess up, just admitting that, I'm sorry if and I think again, with what I do with influencing, it's a different world than a lot of jobs. And because I am choosing to put myself out there, there's a piece of it that, sometimes you may have to, I hope this doesn't happen. My prayer doesn't, but if something, I have seen other influencers do this. And I really, I can't tell you how much I look up to those that when you do misrepresent or something, we're not perfect individuals, but taking this, I'm so sorry. This is not my heart or how I meant it to be. And just being authentic.
Yeah.
Like, I think people appreciate that more than anything, really. Is I honestly believe that's why marketing has kind of changed to be more one-on-one or outside of commercials. That, a lot of social media is taken off as people appreciate getting to know a person. And so if you're truly authentic and you're letting people know the real you, then that's going to kind of shine through too. So.
Yeah, 100%. Well, what would you say maybe to a parent or even a young entrepreneur who's listening to this, and they'd love to start a business, they'd love to help encourage their child to start a business, but they don't have experience, so they don't really know how to encourage them. What would be maybe some advice that you would give them if they were, sitting across the room from you today?
Well, your playbook is amazing. Such an incredible resource.
I didn't mean for you to just plug that, but I appreciate that.
But it is. It's absolutely incredible. I'm so excited to get to use it for my classes next year too. But you've really done an amazing job. I think you and I have had this conversation online before, but I had tried to piecemeal stuff together without writing a curriculum. And I'm like, she hit on all the things. This is so great. So definitely get Ashley's book. It's incredible. But outside of that, there is so many kids business fairs. I know that you do one locally, you and Andy do. That is awesome. There's several others in the area. I think that's a great starting point if you're able to just sign up, if that's great too, or at least attend one with your kids. Like, that gets so many gears running and kind of just the excitement. And I think it takes a lot of the kind of pressure off of parents of knowing it doesn't have, it does take work for sure. It takes work and time and attention, but it doesn't have to be a massive production necessarily either. Really just getting your feet in and jumping in and trying is half the battle, or maybe even more than half the battle, right? So yeah, I would definitely say check that out and really just let your kids pursue their passion. I know we've talked about this a lot already today, but the risk is so low. So why not?
Yeah. And yeah, if you were speaking specifically to that student and they were like, I've got all these ideas, I just feel really nervous, I feel like I might fail, even if we're like, no, I promise you, it's okay if you fail. Like, what do you say to the kids who are like, I really have so many ideas, I'm afraid to start, like, I'm maybe procrastinating, or dealing with the perfectionism, or what if I fail publicly?
Right. I get asked that question a lot by my students, and again, so much of it, I encourage them to find, or I really start asking them, what is it that you love? What is it when you have downtime or free time? What do you choose to do? Like, is that gymnastics? Is that animals? What is that? And can we craft an idea around that? Because if it's something that you already love, it's going to be fun. So from that standpoint, what's the worst thing that can happen? It's not profitable. Okay, life goes on. We'll be fine, you know, and then just really encouraging them to just be brave. I think so much in life is just being brave and taking the first step. And once you take that first step forward, it gets way easier. It's the first step that's always the hardest of anything, right? Yeah. So the more we can just encourage them and celebrate them. I mean, I think like, again, just celebrating especially our own children's successes or failures. Like even when you didn't make money, like I said, my kids have had several years where they didn't make money at Kids Business Fair. And we're like, you know what, we're going to go out to dinner. Where do y'all want to eat? Like, I'm so proud of you. And kids get so much fulfillment. I mean, most kids aren't really going after the dollar at this age anyway. It's more about just, you know, making it fun and positive and letting them know you're proud of them, just like anything else in the world. But what they don't know is that they're just growing and learning so much through the whole experience. So
yeah, I love that. I totally agree. Well, I have loved this conversation, and I know we could just keep talking more and more and sharing. I mean, there's so many stories, right, between our own kids and with your students, and just all the amazing stories that we've just seen over the years. But any final thoughts on just encouraging entrepreneurship, or just encouraging our gifts, because it doesn't always start out as entrepreneurship. Like we talked about, even our daughters, like vet dreams and things like that.
Yeah.
Just kind of following that passion. What would you kind of say to kind of wrap up the whole thing? Big bow.
Yeah. Oh yeah, that's big. No, I mean, again, back to me, it's like all goes back to the why. Like, why are we doing something? And I think that's something we can teach our kids even as young as 4 and 5 is, why do you want to do this? Like, why are you excited about starting a business? And maybe it is to earn $1. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that. And honestly, there's so many amazing lessons. We've kind of talked about that even in stewardship and you know, in wealth and all of that as well too. But again, going back to what is your why? What do you love? Why do you love it? And how can we make that come to life? I really, really look up to Truett Cathy. And anyway, one of my favorite quotes from him is, he said something to the effect of, if you love what you do, you'll never work a day in your life. And that has always stuck with me. And I kind of preach that to my kids and to my students. And I'm like, you know, whether it's, like you said, whether it's business, whether it's service opportunities, whether it's even just a sport or an extracurricular, like, let's find what we love. And if we don't love it, like, let's pivot, because life is way too short to do something that we're not excited about, even though every day is, again, not going to be all cake and roses, but life's just too short. Let's do something we love.
Yeah. I love that so much. And to that point, you know, everybody needs to follow you, because you give so many good examples and ideas to make every day an adventure.
Thank you. Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ashley. This has been amazing. I really appreciate you inviting me. And this has been such a fun conversation. I feel like we could go all day long.
I know. It's so good. I appreciate your time so much. Tell everybody where we can follow you. Website, Instagram, everywhere that we can find you to follow along your adventures.
Sure.
Yes.
Yeah. You can find me at Raising Our Wild Things. Instagram's my primary, but I'm on all the YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, on all the different platforms. And if you're planning a vacation, like I said, I've gotten into that too. So I'd love to help with that. Maybe I can give you my email or something. We can drop it in show notes or something like that. But I would love to, like I said, we're really love to just share not only just traveling, but how you can get every day adventure at home and afar. So.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, we'll include all your links in the show notes for sure. So
that sounds great.
Yes.
Thank you again, Ashley. It's been so much fun.
Yes, I appreciate you. Thank you, everybody who's been watching and listening in. This has been such a fun season. This does wrap up season 4. So we look forward to seeing all your big ideas come to life, and definitely keep us posted on what you've created, all the lessons learned. We'd love to hear from you and keep in touch for sure. But in the meantime, keep your big ideas coming, and we will see you on the next season. Thanks so much for joining us. Hey friends, thanks so much for tuning in today. Before you go, it would mean the world to me and my family if you would share this episode with at least one person who you think might benefit from this message. And of course, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss future episodes. You can also follow me at Ashley Ilg on Instagram to keep up with our adventures and for continued encouragement as you pursue your big ideas. Thanks again for joining us. Until next time.